Sadek, who will speak about the place of Qosqam in the textual data on the flight into Egypt.
Can you hear? Doctor?
Yes, please, yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Gaudet, and a special thanks to Dr. Fatih Stefanos. In fact, originally I prepared this paper in French, but a few weeks ago I converted it in English, so I'm not sure it is completely correct translation. Yes, the place of Qosqam and the textual data on the flight into Egypt. Sometimes some people tell me we must say escape to Egypt, but well, we used to say flight. There in Muharraq, where we have the privilege of being welcome for the present symposium, is for Christian Egyptian a very blessed place. I am going to avoid all this introduction, c'est banal for most of you, but I'm going to try to do it briefly. The film of Deir al-Muharraq is linked to the history, and this history is very much dependent on the traditions of the Holy Family sojourn on the spot. Qosqam, where the monastery now stands, on which grounds did such traditions develop. We shall focus in this paper on the textual data. Our scope is to give a comparative view of the available documents and of the place occupied by Qosqam in this documentation. Our study is recapitulated in the table of the sources and the events concerning Qosqam, which comes as a complement to the table we established and published in the first part of our trilogy on the flight into Egypt, Le Monde Copte number 34, Un fleuve d'eau vive, tome 1. Perhaps some of you have already, it is most 1 year ago, we published the first volume of these studies, and my wife and myself, we prepared for the moment the second volume and of course the third volume. And it concerns the source. In this study, we listed 50 texts which may, in our view, be considered as textual sources of the traditions on the coming of the Holy Family in Egypt. These texts have only 2 points in common. They mention at least one aspect of the legend of the flight into Egypt, and they all find their origin before the 8th century. Apart from that, they are extremely different and belong to 4 main categories. The apocryphal infancy, Gospels, reports to the pilgrims and the travelers during the Antiquity and early Middle Ages, Church Fathers and anti-Christian early literature and Coptic textual evidence. Among these 50 texts listed, 10 mention Qosqam. The first point to mention is that they all belong to the group of Coptic textual evidence. The first part of our paper will be dedicated to the presentation of these texts. The second part will deal with the evidence or facts they mention. The presentation of the Coptic textual evidence mentioning Qosqam. Coptic textual evidence is the most developed category of documents in the group of texts of the flight to Egypt. It falls into four types of documents: homilies, liturgical text, hagiographical stories, and prophetical text. The homily provides the most important group of documents. They were written either in Coptic or Arabic, and they include the history of Joseph, the carpenter, 4th to 6th century, in Coptic, in which Jesus tells his disciples the life of the stepfather Joseph, including the flight into Egypt. Some of these stories told in this Coptic apocrypha are common with those of the infancy gospel. The Vision of Theophilus was composed in the 4th century by Theophilus, the 23rd Pope of Alexandria, and written down in Coptic by his successor, Saint Cyril the Great. It is probably the earliest text that reports an itinerary of the Holy Family in Egypt. This text was transmitted orally and in various written variants throughout the ages down to our days. It played a very important part in the history of the Copts by showing the link between Christian Egyptians and the land of Egypt. It is still a constant reference in Egypt. It stresses the importance of Qosqam, Deir el-Muharrar. Although the antiquity of this text was for a long time refused by Western scholars. A recent academic study on the vision of Theophilus has enabled scholars to take the historical grounds of this story concerning both its interpretation and the traditions in reference to. The author of this research, Dr. Fatin Gergis, an American, after a close study of the manuscript, reached two important conclusions. First, she showed how all manuscripts, in spite of their difference, converge in transmitting some basic story. Then she provided that this verity itself is in fact a testimony to the fact that these traditions were transmitted orally since the 4th century. I'm going to mention the homily of Zacharias of Sacha dates back to the 7th century. It develops the vision of Theophilus and adds many comments on the incarnation and on the various sites visited by the Holy Family. Another one, two homilies by Cyriacus of Bahnasa. They were probably written in the early 8th century. They develop the veneration of the sites of the Deir el-Jarnus and Qosqam. Deir el-Jarnus, between Marara and Beni Mazar sites. The homily of Amba Timotheus or homily on the Church of the Rock, was first written in Copt in the 5th century. It praises the site of Jabal al-Tair, where it is today, east of Samalot. It is a very important text full of interesting theological elements which help understand the meaning of the flight unto Egypt. All these homilies mention the sojourn of the Holy Family in Qosqam, except for the first one, the history of Joseph the carpenter, and the first homily of Syriacs of Bessus. The vision of Theophilus is the most developed on this subject, as we shall see in the second part. B. Liturgical texts. It is difficult to date them, but they were certainly in use during Middle Ages. They include the Synaxarium on the 24th and 25th Bashans, means 1st June, entry of the Lord into Egypt. 8 Ba'una, Muhammad. 6 Hatur, concerning for the Church of Qosqam. As we can see on the table, the text of the 6th Hatur and its Ba'una mentions the passage of the Holy Family in Qosqam. Doxology and Psalmody of the 24th Bashans. The Psalmody mention Qosqam. The Fnar of the 24th of Bashans. 8 Ba'una, arrival of the Holy Family in Qosqam. 6 Hatur, consecration of the Church of Qosqam. The last two texts mention Qosqam. The other two texts, an anaphora of Syriacus of Bahnasa, is still in use in Ethiopic liturgy, and the fraction prayer for the 24th of Bashans deal with the Holy Family in Egypt without mentioning Qosqam. Lives of martyrs and saints, it is number C. Several lives of saints mention the flight unto Egypt. Pazis and Tekla, martyrs of 4th century. Peter and Eri, martyr 4th century. Victor, the general, son of Romanus, Roman martyr 4th century. Olympius from Nicodemia, martyr 4th century. Saint Chinute, widow of Armand, and eventually Saint Delagi, a martyr of Esna, 4th century. Here, her patient is the only one that mentions Qosqam. We are told in this text that Saint Delagi was a mother of four boys. All of them were killed during the Diocletian persecution. The author of the text, Paul, Bishop of Asyut, compared her sons to the sons of Joseph, one of whom ran from Israel to Qosqam in Egypt, in order to tell the Holy Family that Herod had sent his soldiers to capture them in Upper Egypt. To this list of Coptic documents should be added the prophetical text of Fayum, often called the Fayum Papyrus. This famous Coptic manuscript, kept in Köln in Germany, is from the 4th century. It was translated into German and published by in 1997 by the papyrologist Deza Schenk. We published a French tradition of this text in our book Un fleuve de vivre. This one that I show you. It hints at the coming of Christ in Egypt in several ways. It mentions a stay of 3 years and 11 months, and the coming during the months of Bashans. It hints at the fact that Egypt, which was the symbol of nations, pagan countries, will become a holy land. Qosqam is not mentioned explicitly in this text, so we didn't list it among the 10 texts chosen for this information about this site. However, this prophecy mentioned that Jesus blessed Egypt by saying, "My 12 sons will visit you." This may be a hint at the event of the consecration of the church of the Mount Qosqam. After Christ's ascension, one of the evidence reported by several texts, as we shall see in our second part. To sum up what has been said, here is the list of the 10 documents mentioning explicitly the site of Qosqam. The vision of Theophilus. Second, the homily of Zachariah of Sakhar. Third, the homily of Syriac of Bahnasa on Koseya. The homily of Timotheus on the Church of the Rock. The Egyptian Synaxarium of Bauna 8. The Egyptian Synaxarium Hathor 6. 7. The Psaltery of Bashans 24. 8. The Dafnar of Bauna 8. 9. The Dafnar of Hathor 6. 10. The life of Saint Delagi. Secondly, or part 2, facts and evidence in connection with Qosqam related in the textual data. We shall now sum up the various elements contained in this text concerning the place of Qosqam and what happened there. In this respect, the elements developed by this source deal with 5 main themes. The arrival and the stay of the Holy Family in Qosqam, Herod's attempt to reach Jesus in Qosqam and how the Holy Family was protected, the departure from Qosqam, the consecration of the Church of Qosqam by Jesus after his ascension, the special blessing linked to the site of Qosqam. For each of these themes, we shall see what are the texts which mention the event. Try to see the table, please. What I give to you. And what is said by each one of these documents. The arrival and sojourn of Holy Family in Qosqam. The vision of Theophilus takes place on the mountain of Qosqam itself. According to this text, the Holy Virgin herself told Theophilus that they stayed there for 6 months. We arrived in this holy place on the 7th of the month of Barmoda and left on the 6th of Baba, on the day when the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph and said, "Come, take the boy and his mother and return to the land of Israel." Zechariah from Sacha in this homily said only that the Holy Family, after leaving Ashmonaim, walked to the mountain of the west. They arrived at the mountain of Qosqam, known in our days as Deir al-Muharrar. There they built a small shelter where they lived for 6 months. According to the scholar Gabriel Gambardini, the reason why Zechariah doesn't insist more on the sojourn of the Holy Family in Qosqam is that he knew that this place was already famous enough. In this homily on Qosqam, Syriac of Bahnasa described Qosqam on the arrival of the Holy Family as a desert of rains and misery, which according to Syriac, Jesus turned into a place which can be compared to the heavenly Jerusalem. Then Syriac finds a box containing a text written by Joseph, the carpenter, which says, "I, Joseph, the carpenter from Nazareth, called the father of the Lord Jesus according to the flesh, and servant of the great mystery. I declare that myself, my wife, the Virgin, and Salome, and the Lord of glory, we lived for some time on this pure mountain." Timotheus in the homily of the rock mentions a 6 months sojourn in Qosqam, with little detail in his focus being mainly on Jebel al-Tayr. The Selexarium of Ba'una aids mention Muharrak without any comment, while the psalmody of Bashan's 24th say that after leaving Ashmonaim, they walked in joy to the mountain of Qosqam, where they stayed for several months, and God manifested himself among us on the mountain of Qosqam. The Dafnar on Ba'una aids mention that they went south and reached Qosqam, where they stayed until the death of Herod. May I have a little bit? Herod's attempt to reach Jesus in Qosqam and how the Holy Family was protected. 3 texts: the vision of Theophilus, the homily of the Church of the Rock, and the homily of Saint Delagi, martyr of Esna, mention the Herod as told of the place where the Holy Family had found a shelter in Qosqam, and consequently sent his soldier to kill them. According to the vision, it was the divine himself who informed Herod, who sent 10 soldiers to Egypt. However, a prophet named Yusa, a relative of Joseph, the carpenter, having heard of the project, hurried to Qosqam, where he arrived before the soldiers, in spite of the divine who tried to discourage him. Having informed Joseph and Mary, he died there, and Jesus consoled his parents, while the soldier died before reaching Qosqam. In some version of the homily on the rock, the messenger is called Musa. More interesting is the version given by the homily of Saint Delagi, which developed the story through a comparison saying that the messenger is one of the four sons whom Joseph had from a previous marriage. The three documents mention that the body of the messenger was buried by Joseph on the mountain of Qosqam. Then I spoke about the departure from Qosqam. I'm afraid to be long. The consecration of the church of Qosqam after the resurrection, according to the vision of Theophilus and other documents, the homily of Syriac. And then the blessing attached to this holy place, Qosqam. The conclusion, all the tradition concerning Qosqam, Muharrak, tend to point to this place as the center of Christian Egypt because of the very special blessing delivered on it by the long presence of the Holy Family, etc., etc. I also want by the end to explain one of the very lovely icon here in the old church, and I think we have a very nice photo now. We can find it in the library, about 70 centimeter or something like this, 70 by 40. You can find it over there. It is a lovely one and very like the composition of this icon of the Holy Family. Thank you very much.
So we have 5 minutes, questions? Yes, please.
You mentioned in the beginning that when the Lord was talking to his disciples, he was telling them about Joseph, his stepfather. So I was wondering about that term, referring to Joseph the carpenter, Saint Joseph the carpenter, as his stepfather. Where was that? Which book was that? Was it part of any of the liturgical books that we have, or because it's my first time to hear that term?
Yes, yes.
Saint Joseph
yes.
being described as the stepfather.
Yes, at least we have one document, and I mentioned some of them, and maybe to have a good reference, you have the table here, because we can get confusion between all these documents. Some of them I mentioned that they are apocryphal texts, and it doesn't mean that it is false. It is false one, but we have certainly one among them. As I translated from French, I was very in a hurry to tell it. Even I didn't finish my paper because of the time, and I was not. I said it slowly, so I'm very sorry for that.
So it
You
was
can
one of the
find, I gave it to you. Yes, afterward. Yes.
It was in one of the apocryphal texts.
Yes, one of the apocryphal texts. Some of them we can believe, some of them we can discuss. It is not always false evidence or information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Yohanna.
I would like just to mention two corrections, not details.
Yes,
First-
go ahead.
First, the name of the author of the homily of Dulaji is John Johannes or John and not Paul. And I
Yes.
published already 2 articles, one of them in Collectania Christiana Orientalia. This is first second.
Yes.
Second thing, the homily of
But if you have two documents,
no,
one, I mean,
1 second.
yes.
There is an article published by Qosqam in the Bulletin Société d'Archéologie COP 1997 about this homily and how he developed the homily by Dorotheus to put the article is available and in French.
Yes,
This
that's
is
your
the first,
opinion, Dr.
Qosqam is a
Yohanna,
great
yes.
scholar and you can have it.
Yes,
The second
yes.
thing, the
Yes.
homily of Theophilus survived in Greek, in Syriac, Arabic and Ethiopian.
Yes.
And recently our colleague Romanian Alan Sisiu found
This is I know very well. I mentioned correction is that quickly I underlined some text, not to say everything for the moment. I gave the most important sources and what we have and what we could reach for the moment. But I have more than one. Yes. Yes.
That's just a stupid
Yes. Addition, not correction. Thank you.
Thank you very much.